Hello, everyone, and welcome to this live telephone town hall with Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan. During this event, we'll be taking questions from constituents like you. To ask a question, simply press *3 on your telephone keypad to enter the question queue. And during this call, you can also get signed up for our e-newsletter by pressing *6. So please press *3 to ask a question and use *6 to subscribe to our newsletter. And with that, I'll turn it over to Congresswoman McClellan. Congresswoman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight for my first telephone town hall of the 119th Congress. First, let me just say thank you for giving me the privilege of representing you in Washington. I take the job very seriously, and I take very seriously the oath of office that I took to be sworn in for my second term, my first full term as your Congresswoman, and that was on January 3rd. And since that day, and certainly since the start of the Trump-Vance administration on January 20th, a lot has happened. Before I get into that, though, I do want to give you a few exciting announcements to share regarding my committee assignments and some staff updates. I do have a new Chief of Staff, Shayed Ahmed, who is holding down the fort and leading the team. The rest of the district office staff that many of you have reached out to remains the same, but we do have new leadership there. I also have new committee assignments. As you know, last Congress, I was on the Armed Services Committee and the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. This year, I am on the Energy and Commerce Committee, which has it's the oldest committee in the House and has the largest jurisdiction. As the late Congressman John Dingell used to say when he was chair, if it moves, it's energy. If it doesn't, it's commerce. And that pretty much encompasses the broad jurisdiction that we have as a committee. It includes everything from healthcare to energy, communications, technology, manufacturing, trade, and so much more. That is what is considered an exclusive committee, and so I had to give up my other two committee assignments, but I will still be heavily involved in issues related to our service members and our armed forces because that is such a critically important community in the 4th Congressional District. I am excited to have some leadership opportunities this Congress. First, I am part of the leadership team of the Congressional Black Caucus as their parliamentarian. The CBC is commonly referred to as the conscience of the Congress, and I am certainly proud to carry on the legacy of Shirley Chisholm, who was the first Black woman elected to Congress in 1968, was one of the founding members of the CBC, and very happy to continue her work. I am also part of the leadership team of one of the largest caucuses in the House, the New Democrat Coalition, and we like to roll up our sleeves and focus on getting things done on behalf of the American people. And finally, I am a deputy floor whip under the leadership of House Democratic Whip Catherine Clark, and will be chairing the Abortion Access and Reproductive Justice Task Force of the Reproductive Freedom Caucus. So it's a very busy Congress, but my number one priority each and every day is how to help you and solve problems and make sure that we are handling any casework that you all have and make sure that we are your voice in the 119th Congress. And so, every day since January 20th, we have seen a flurry of executive actions from the president at a breakneck pace. On Inauguration Day, he took over 100 executive actions that really began to implement Project 2025. And many of the things that he has done were directly spelled out in Project 2025, from the assault on our federal workforce and an attempt to not only shrink it, but as Russell Watt, who was the architect of Project 2025 and who was just sworn in as the director of the Office of Budget and Management, he said that the goal was to traumatize the federal workforce, to make them villains, and to make them not want to come to work. And based on the calls and feedback that I am getting from a lot of federal workers, Virginia has one of the largest populations of federal workers, over 140,000 civilian federal workers, many of whom are right in the 4th District. A lot of them are frankly feeling traumatized. And we saw many of these actions. I don't know whether they were well thought through. I don't know whether it was just a matter of causing chaos, but they definitely have caused chaos. From the federal hiring freeze that caused the VA to not have to, the VA hospitals have to rescind job offers and really put in question whether they could open a brand new facility in Fredericksburg that would be the largest facility in the country addressing the healthcare needs of our veterans, to then an attempted freeze of federal funding disbursements for all grants, and that affected everything from funding to community health centers. And we had 3 in the district that had to close their doors because they could not access their funding and pay their staff. We saw Head Start facilities not be able to get their funding, and for parents not be able to get their child care subsidies, and they didn't know if they could send their kids to child care. We have seen freeze on funding for NIH funding for our research institutions, including VCU, that has put in question whether they will be able to conduct some of their clinical trials dealing with cancer treatments. We have seen an unprecedented attempt to really take away powers of Congress. And I think part of that is because even though the Republicans now have a trifecta in control of the White House, the House, and the Senate, it is a very slim margin. In the House, it is a 3-seat margin, and we saw in the 118th Congress that with a 5-seat margin, Republicans cannot always agree amongst themselves to get anything done. And so the Trump administration is really testing the bounds of their authority under the Constitution. But there's one thing that is clear. The Constitution gives Congress the power of the purse. Congress decides what money is spent on what. And it is not up to the president to decide that he's just not going to spend it. That fight was fought under the Nixon administration, and the Supreme Court made clear that Congress has the power of the purse, and there was legislation passed at the time to make that even clearer. There's so much going on, and we only have an hour, and I want to make sure that I get to your questions, but the first thing I want you to know is we've received hundreds of calls a day. We hear all of them. I get a report every day of what people are calling in. I get a report at the end of the week, what people are calling in about, everything from expressing your opinion about what's happening to those of you that are calling, needing help, accessing services. So my team has been working nonstop to address your concerns, to address any of the problems that you're facing. So I want to, before we go to questions, just a couple of reminders. If you are having a problem with a federal agency, whether you can't access the Social Security website to make changes, you're missing a check from the Social Security agency, can't get your VA benefits, passport issues, mail issues, any federal agency issue, You can call my offices or visit the website, McClellan.house.gov, to open a case with one of my caseworkers. Just to tell you how great they are, in just the last month, my caseworkers have already returned over $400,000 to constituents, and last Congress, we were just shy of $4 million in constituent savings. So if you have a problem, reach out. You have heard and will hear again how you can sign up for my newsletter. You can press *6. We send them out. We try to do once a week, but sometimes things are happening so fast that it takes 2 weeks just to summarize everything, because you write one and it gets outdated. So for immediate real-time updates, you can follow me on social media, on X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and YouTube. I am at Rep McClellan. On Blue Sky, I am at McClellan.house.gov, which is the same as the website. So we are expecting a heavy turnout tonight, and so we want to make sure we get to your questions. I'm going to say up front, we're not going to get to everybody's, but we will get a list of all of your questions. And so any questions we don't get to tonight, and if we see a lot of different, a lot of questions on one topic, we may try to combine them and answer all at once. But if we do not get to your questions, we will follow up with you individually after the call is done, between now and as quickly as possible. I'm just going to say that we already have more people than we expected. I think on average, when a member of Congress has a teletown hall, they are lucky if they get, between 500 and 800 people. Tonight, we have 2,300 people on. So we are not going to answer 2,300 questions, but we are going to get as many as possible. And so with that, I want to turn it back over to our moderator, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. A quick reminder for everybody, if you do have a question you'd like to ask, please press *3 on your telephone keypad. And we're heading now out to North Chesterfield. Josely is on the line with us. Hi, Josely. You are live. Go ahead with your question, please.
Yes, my question was, I'm trying to figure out what's our next step that we're going to do to try to stop some of these changes and these cuts that the Trump administration is doing, as far as with like the Head Start program, with this fake Doge program that Elon Musk got going on, interfering with people, with the Treasury Department, and interfering with people's Social Security and information. I'm very concerned about that. I'm a government worker, and I just feel like that I'm being cheated, and things is getting out of control as far as our Social Security benefits and the breach of our privacy and things of that nature, and our money.
Well, thank you for that. And first of all, thank you for your service as a federal employee. And there's a multi-pronged approach. Now, part of the issue is, one thing that you can't change in life, that's math. And we need 3 Republicans to join all 215 Democrats to pass legislation. And so it's going to be difficult for anybody to pass legislation, including the Republicans that want to pass cuts that get Medicaid or Social Security or anything like that. And I think they are starting to see from the phone calls that they're getting the pressure from their own constituents who say, do not take my health care away, do not take my Social Security, do not take my access to child care, and these kinds of things. So where we can stop them legislatively, we will. Where we can raise stories and point out the impact of what they're doing, and that in some cases causes them to back down, we've done that. And a good example is when I and a number of other people, Republicans included, raised the issue with what the hiring freeze was doing at the VA. They carved out some employees, the medical employees at the VA, and then we're continuing to put pressure on them to deal with the rest. There are lawsuits taking place. Now, let me say, the only person that can sue on behalf of Congress is the Speaker of the House, and he's not going to do it. But we are working with a state attorney general. We are more likely to find willing partners with the Democratic state attorney generals, and so 22 of them filed the lawsuit that blocks the funding freeze and that blocked the hiring or the effort to, one of the efforts to try to get employees to take a fake buyout. And let me address that. If there are any federal employees on this call, think very carefully before you take that deal, because number one, it's not authorized by law. Number two, we've started to see what some of the fine print of those agreements are, and you waive all of your rights. So if you agree to take that deal, and then it turns out they didn't have the authority to give it to you, or they just decide they're not going to, you will have waived any right to do anything about it. So make sure you are reading those carefully, but I'm going to ask you just do not quit because we need you. We are putting as much pressure as we can to make sure that the Republicans know that what they're doing is not popular, what they're doing is not what the American people wanted, and what they're trying to cut are programs that are essential, like Medicaid, like Medicare, and like Social Security, and we're not going to let them do it without a fight. So those are some of the things that are happening, and again, you can follow, sign up for my newsletter and follow me on social media for more details on particular actions.
Get to our next question. We've got Anita joining us on the line. Hello, Anita. You are live with Congresswoman McClellan. What's your question?
Hi. Thank you for taking my question. It kind of follows on the one that you just answered. I am in fear of what this administration is doing and going to continue to do. What can I, as a citizen, do to thwart his efforts?
Well, a number of things. First, I will go back to, and this is I'm on the official side, so I cannot get political, but I can say we need 3 Republican members of the House to do the right thing and vote with us. And we need Republicans in the House and the Senate to put their constituents first. And so if you have friends and family that live in districts that are represented by Republicans and they share your concern, they need to call their member of Congress or write or go see them and let them know that they do not want what's happening. So that's the first thing. There are a number of organizations that are filing lawsuits. If there is a particular issue you're concerned about, then find an advocacy organization that is working to fight it. And if we can follow up with you individually to see if there are particular issues that you need help with and want to be connected with an organization. But I think the biggest thing is, as each of you start to see an impact, sharing your stories with me and my team helps us be your voice. When we had somebody tell me, I can't access the Social Security website to make changes to my account, we were able to flag that. I don't know that unless you tell me or my staff. So again, I'll go back to how I started. If anybody is having an issue with a federal agency, please call or reach out to my office, and we can either help you with your individual case, or more importantly, we can raise the issues that we're starting to see of the consequences of some of these actions. So those are some of the things that you can do.
So staying informed is really important, and the Congresswoman and her staff put out a very informative, very frequent e-newsletter. You can get signed up to receive that by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad during this call. So again, get connected, stay informed. Get subscribed to the Congresswoman's e-newsletter by pressing *6. Back to another question. This one comes out of Richmond. We've got Paul joining us. Hello, Paul. You're live. Go ahead, sir.
My question is, and I hope you can hear me because I'm in my car. My question is, can Congress or the President rescind the Emancipation Proclamation and reenact slavery? Because I am concerned with the actions of Project 2025, that is the direction that we're heading in.
Thank you, Paul. I can hear you, and he cannot. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which was ratified in 1870, abolished slavery. And so that cannot happen. I don't think they would be crazy enough to try, but what they are trying to do is roll back all of the progress that we have made under the Civil Rights Movement to enforce 14th Amendment, which ensured there would be no discrimination on the basis of race. And we're gonna fight like hell to make sure that we don't go back to Jim Crow days. I grew up listening to the stories of my parents who grew up during the Depression, during Jim Crow, and they saw the best of government through the New Deal, and they saw the worst of government through Jim Crow. And that is what sparked an interest in me going into public service to begin with. And I fully understand that history, and I am going to do everything within my power and work with my colleagues to make sure we never go back. We will not go back. And I can tell you that is definitely something that I wake up every morning and make sure that that's not going to happen.
So, Congresswoman, next we've got a question submitted online. This question comes from Georgia, who asks, what will be the impact for Virginia if the education department is closed?
Thank you. That is a great question. A lot of people don't understand exactly what the Department of Education does and does not do. What Trump is playing on the fears of his base that the Department of Education is trying to indoctrinate children. The federal government does not have anything to do with what is taught in classes. That is left to states and local governments. And in Virginia, it's your local school boards that decide. It's the State Board of Education that sets particular standards, and it's the local school board that sets the curriculum, and individual teachers that sets the curriculum of what's going to be taught in those classes. But what the department does is it enforces the Civil Rights Act in our schools. It provides services to students with disabilities, students that have IEPs, and make sure that their rights are protected. It provides a significant amount of federal funding to what are called Title I schools. Those are schools that have large numbers of children in poverty. Most of the schools in the 4th District are Title I schools, including the school that my own children go to. For higher education, student loans, Pell Grants. My mother worked at Virginia State, and she ran the TRIO programs. Those are 3 federal programs that help at-risk students, first-generation students, access and succeed in college. The department provides significant funding to our colleges to help them meet workforce development needs. And so I think it'll be devastating to our schools because that money, all of that money that I just talked about, the state and our localities can't make it up. And so, number one, he cannot legally close the Department of Education, and we're going to remind him of that, and we're waiting for whatever order comes and there'll be another lawsuit. But it would have a devastating impact on Virginia.
Next up, we've got Anthony on the line with us from Richmond. Anthony, you're live with Congresswoman McClellan. What's your question? Hello, Anthony.
Yes.
Anthony, are you there?
Hello?
Hi there. You're live on the call. Go ahead with your question, please.
Yes, my question to the Congresswoman, and I want to thank her for all that she does in making this possible, but with all that what the President has been doing, is it possible that he can be impeached? Has that been thought about?
Well, there is a Congressman, Al Green, who I think did file a bill to begin the impeachment process, but I go back to math. To be impeached by Congress, that's a vote of the House of Representatives has to happen to impeach him, and a vote of the Senate needs to happen for him to be convicted. And I do not see Republicans in this Congress voting to impeach him or voting to convict him at this point. I'll never say never, but I think that right now is very unlikely. Now, we got elections coming up in 2026, and the Congress could look very different after that. But in this Congress, I don't think it's very likely.
So earlier, the Congresswoman mentioned that a lot of people have connected into this call, and it's great to see that number even rising further. But I want to take a quick detour from the questions and go to a poll question. And this is where everyone listening in can use their telephone keypad to register their response. So I'll ask the question twice and give the responses available to you also twice. So please use your telephone keypad to respond to this question. Have you or someone you know been impacted by the Trump-Vance administration's executive actions? Please press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. So again, for everyone that's listening in, we're looking for your input. Please use your telephone keypad to reply. Have you or someone you know been impacted by the Trump-Vance administration's executive actions? Please press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. I see a number of people are responding. Thank you very much for participating. We're going to jump back into questions. If you do have a question you want to ask during this live telephone town hall, please press *3 on your telephone keypad. And next up, we've got someone with the initial P, like Paul, who's got a question about continuing resolutions. So go ahead, initial P. You're live on the call.
Hi, thank you, Congresswoman. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I'm a government employee with over 10 years of experience. I don't want to give my name due to any potential repercussions that may stem from this, but I do thank you for your time. I want to ask that has it been taken into consideration that if appropriations are not being, funds are not being appropriated what they were intended for, and staff as such as myself and others that are many like me who have years and years of government service are potentially going to be terminated for no cause, if the idea is to shut down these government agencies, then when the continuing resolution runs out, will there be a push to let the government shut down so that this administration can see that the government agencies are needed and for Congress not to cave to just keep it open and we still have to fund the government for it to not be used in the way that the funds are being appropriated for?
Thank you. Thank you for your question. And again, thank you for your service to our nation. For those that aren't aware, we are currently operating under what's called the continuing resolution. That is a temporary bill that extended federal funding through March 13th. If we do not pass any new funding bill by 11:59, on the 13th, then the government will shut down on, at midnight on the 14th. There have been a lot of talk and a lot of thought about that. And my prediction is that we are going to have a government shutdown because the Republicans are fighting amongst themselves and are fighting over the amount of money, the amount they want to cut. And all of this is because Donald Trump wants to give billionaires a permanent tax cut. And that's trillions of dollars. And he also wants to raise the debt ceiling. And the debt ceiling is the limit at which the government can borrow money. And if we reach that ceiling, we can't borrow any more money and we can't spend any more money. And he wants to increase that so that he can get his tax cut for billionaires. I don't see anything that Democrats would agree to that they would want to do, because to reach that the trillions of dollars that they need for those tax cuts, they are going to need to have significant and devastating cuts in Medicaid, in Medicare, probably Social Security, and services that you all depend on, services that educate children, services that care for our veterans, and other things. And I'm not going to agree to those cuts. And I don't believe any Democrat will. But more importantly, or not more importantly, but more significantly, I don't think the Republicans are going to reach an agreement amongst themselves. And they're not even talking to us. So unfortunately, I think we are headed for a government shutdown. The last time Trump was president and had control of Congress, the government was shut down for about a month. And people did see exactly how important these services are. I think that history is about to repeat itself. And I am doing everything that I can to minimize any damage, but I think everybody needs to be prepared for that. And I wish I had better news, but that's what I think is very likely to happen.
So in times like these, information is key, and reliable, credible information is paramount. And you can get that by subscribing to the Congresswoman's e-newsletter. You can do that during this live event by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. So again, get subscribed to stay informed with the Congresswoman's e-newsletter by pressing *6 on your telephone keypad. Now, back out to the phones we go, and we've got Ms. Ross joining us. Ms. Ross, you're live. Go ahead with your question. Hello, Ms. Ross.
Good evening. This is Ms. Ross. Good evening, all. I'm a retired veteran, and I also work for the DOD IG Inspector General, and 17 of our IGs were fired. My question and concern is, how did DOJ, without legal authorization, have the ability to either fire people or take over government agencies?
Legally, they don't. And that is why you have seen so many lawsuits, including, courts that have ordered people that they have tried to fire. They've ordered them reinstated, there's a lawsuit on just about everything that has happened. What Donald Trump did was give Elon Musk, who wasn't elected by anybody, who has not been vetted by anybody, gave him and his employees unfettered access to these agencies and their computer systems. And the court is fighting back, and we are fighting back. So, for example, the court order that he not be allowed access to personal data at the Treasury Department, that they have read-only access to sort of agency-related information. And there was a bill, which I am a co-sponsor of, that makes crystal clear that what he's doing is illegal. I mean, it already is illegal, but we're just going to make even more clear. They are testing the bounds of what they legally can do under our Constitution, and we are using the court system to check that power. And it is a very difficult fight, but it is a fight that is happening.
So moving on to our next question. We're out to Richmond for this one. We've got Kimberly joining us. Hi, Kimberly. You're live with Congresswoman McClellan. What's your question? Hello, Kimberly. Can you hear me?
I don't know if I said Kim, but my name is Kimberly. I don't know if the question is directed at me, but my question is kind of two-part. What can we expect next from Trump? What's down the line for as far as what he's planning on doing? And then have there been any discussion regarding disability as far as payments going to claimants as well as jobs being cut or anything?
Thank you for that question. I suspect that they are going to try to pass a budget that cuts a significant number of programs from Medicaid to SNAP to Head Start. They're trying to find billions of dollars to fund this tax cut that the president wants to pass. So that's what they're going to try to do next. What they're in the process of trying to do is bully the federal workforce into quitting, so that they can replace them with Trump loyalists rather than people who are loyal to the Constitution and to the American people. And we are fighting that every step of the way. And they are trying to divert money that Congress appropriated for one purpose to pay for his tax cuts. And we are fighting tooth and nail to stop that. He pretty much outlined what he was going to do in Project 2025 during the campaign. And they're following that playbook, everything from their attempt to get rid of the Department of Education to what's happening with the federal workforce to what's happening with them trying to steal money. All of that is spelled out in Project 2025. So, and his efforts to, he calls them efforts to end DEI. What he's really doing is trying to undo 50 to 60 years worth of civil rights anti-discrimination laws. And we're fighting that every step of the way. And I think that's the big picture of what he's trying to do. For benefits, I would say if anybody on this call, whether it's disability, veterans benefits, or any other benefits, if you are having problems accessing your benefits or getting your benefits, please contact my office. You can get the phone number on the website, which is mcclellan.house.gov. Or you can go on the website, you can fill out a form to initiate a case, and we will work to get your benefits. But they've claimed that they're not going after any money that goes directly to individuals. What they didn't say is a lot of benefits don't go directly to individuals. They go to state governments to then go to individuals, or they go to local governments or a non-governmental entity, then go directly to people. And so, again, we need you to flag for us if you're having problems accessing your benefits, and we will make sure that you get them.
Thank you, everyone, for participating in this live telephone town hall with Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan. Do you know that the Congresswoman puts out a very informative e-newsletter? And during this event, you can get signed up to receive it. All you need to do is press *6 on your telephone keypad to get enrolled. And now let's get back to more questions. We've got Ryan in Richmond joining us. Hi, Ryan. You're live with the Congresswoman. What's on your mind?
Hi, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ryan, and I am a Marine Corps veteran local to the Richmond area. A coalition, including an Afghan ally who is on this call, went to Congresswoman McClellan's office at Capitol Hill last week to bring to light the pause and the halt on Priority 1 and Priority 2 visas for Afghan allies. I wanted to know, what can we do, what can we physically do to move towards legislation and taking any kind of action on ensuring that we continue to process P1 and P2 priority visas, for our Afghan allies who fought shoulder to shoulder with us in the 20-year war. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, and thank you for your service. First, I want to unequivocally say that I oppose the Trump administration's actions to restrict Afghan resettlement, and that these are folks that sacrificed their own safety to support the United States during the war, and we owe it to them to resettle them expeditiously and to make sure that they stay safe. I am leading a letter among several members of Congress urging the Trump administration to resume resettlement of Afghan allies and their families as quickly as possible. And I believe we're working to get the entire Virginia delegation, because we have the second largest Afghan refugee population in the country. I am not sure, because of the majorities, that we will be able to get legislation passed quickly, but we are trying to put pressure on the administration. And I do know there are some Republicans who are trying to, a little more quietly, but who are behind the scenes having conversations with the Defense Department and with the Secretary of State and with the President. And so we are putting pressure on the Trump administration to resume those resettlements as soon as possible.
So earlier in the call, we asked a poll question and we had tremendous response. Thank you very much for everybody that gave us their response. If you'll indulge me, I'd like to ask another poll question. Again, please use your telephone keypad to provide your reply. And the question is, do you have concerns about Elon Musk's unfettered access to the Treasury Department? Please press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. So again, do you have concerns about Elon Musk's unfettered access to the Treasury Department? Please press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. And I see a number of people have keyed in their response. Thank you again for participating. Let's quickly get back to another question. This one comes from Claudette. Hello, Claudette. You're live on the call. Go ahead with your question, please.
Good evening, Congresswoman McClellan. I thank you for serving and representing us. So I would like to ask you today, do you agree with the most recent decision regarding transgenders participating in female sports? Or do you feel that there should be a separate category according to birth sex?
So I have great concerns with how any ban or any rules are going to be enforced. I'm a mom to two kids. Now, granted, my daughter quit soccer, but when I was in middle school, as a girl, I played on the boys' soccer team because there was no girls' team, and I didn't have a choice. And I question how these rules would have impacted my ability to play soccer at Matoka Middle School when I was a middle schooler. And if somebody questioned whether I was a girl or a boy, are they going to pull my pants down? to find out. I don't think that anyone really thought through. And there was a bill that passed the House that basically would allow that. And I'm not about to let anybody pull my daughter's pants down or my son's pants down to determine what sports team they play on. If the issue is, are you concerned that athletes are within the same weight class or are treated fairly, so that you have somebody that is has an unfair advantage based on their physical, their physical attributes, that is something that you can handle through weight class rules or other means. But my concern with these bills is, number one, they are bullying and targeting specific groups of people. And number two, I don't know how you implement them in a way that doesn't cause more problems. So that is my position.
Our next caller with a question is Gay in Chesterfield. Hello, Gay. You're live with the Congresswoman. What's your question?
Good evening. I'm a mental health therapist in Chesterfield County, and I'm getting crisis calls and having a lot of questions about if there's going to be funding that will be eventually released for CON to open. Now the psychiatrist is going to be leaving. It's leaving people in a precarious state where people had stable care up until 2 weeks ago. And how seriously is Congress taking the idea of eliminating Medicaid that provides health care for 72 million people in the United States?
Thank you for that question. Well, the House Republicans were working on a budget today that would cut Medicaid, and that would have at least $880 billion in Medicaid cuts. That's what they were working on today. And I don't think they are thinking through what that means. But what that means is not only do, I think, 80 million people in this country, about 140,000 or so in the 4th District, would lose their health insurance or would have their health insurance benefits significantly cut. And that includes the sickest children, people with disabilities, people seeking long-term care, the elderly. And a lot of Medicaid payments go to hospitals and providers to allow them to treat patients. When we expanded Medicaid in Virginia, when I was in the Virginia General Assembly, that kept rural hospitals from closing because they could not afford to provide services without Medicaid. And as you rightly point out, Medicaid is critically important to funding a lot of mental health services, a lot of addiction services, and a wide variety of things. And so I am on the Energy and Commerce Committee. Healthcare falls within our jurisdiction, and that is a top priority for me, is to protect access to health care, whether it is for Medicaid recipients, whether it is for providers who receive funding from Medicaid so that they can provide services to people, whether that is to protect the Affordable Care Act, whether that is to protect Medicaid. I believe that every American has a right, when they get sick, to be able to go to the doctor, get served, and not go bankrupt. And that is a high priority for me. That is a high priority for me. And I promise every single one of you on this call, I will do everything within my power to protect your health care.
Moving on, our next caller with a question is James. James, you're live with Congresswoman McClellan. Go ahead now.
Thank you, Congresswoman, for taking my call. A couple quick comments before my question, please. First, I'd like to acknowledge and appreciate your candid remarks this evening. I don't hear any double talk. I hear straight talk, and I thank you for that. I'd like to see you press the case on Richmond TV. I haven't seen you on, and I think you're preaching to the choir tonight with a lot of your insight, but a wider audience would benefit from hearing your words. And before my question, one last thing, I'd like to see you emphasize the attempt of the presidential, I'd like to see you in your remarks, in public remarks, emphasize the president's attempt to usurp the power of Congress and the courts. The U.S. does not have a king, we have a president. And my question finally is, when will you be holding the next town hall?
Thank you for that. Let me address one of your comments. I have been on TV. One of the challenges is, when I was a kid, you had 3 stations and everybody watched. I was one of those families that we ate dinner at 6:30 and watched the news. And it's not like that anymore. Everybody gets their information from a wide variety of sources, and local news is dwindling. And right now, our local news is covering the state legislature. And so I think last week and the week before, at least once a week, I've done local interviews. I'll continue to do local interviews, but I'm also trying to meet everybody where they are. So through teletown halls, through social media, through radio, through podcasts, you name it, I'm trying to do it. And so to your point, I'm not exactly sure when the next town hall will be. We will try to do them pretty regularly. We will also try to get an in-person town hall in place. I suspect it will be in March, around the time when the current government funding, about a month from now, when the current government funding runs out, because I know y'all are going to want an update on that. And if we are in a shutdown, I'm going to be stuck in Washington, so it'll have to be a teletown hall. Those are faster to put together, frankly. If we are not shut down and I'm back in the district, then I will do an in-person town hall. But I'm trying to meet everybody where they are, using every communication mechanism I can. If you all have suggestions on like local podcasts or local radio shows that you think that I should be on, please feel free to reach out to my office with those suggestions. And I can tell you, I've got one of the best comms teams on the Hill, and they do, pitch stories to local and national press to get me on, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So, and unlike Elon Musk, I don't have my own network, communications network, but I am definitely doing everything I can to get the message to as many of you as possible. And thank you all for taking the time to join us tonight.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman. And as I look at the clock, I think we do need to begin to wrap this call up, but I want to make sure that I give you a little time to provide us some parting words, closing thoughts, if you will, please.
Well, thank you. Again, I want to thank everybody for taking time tonight to join us for an hour. And I want to thank you for the incredible privilege it is to serve you in Congress. This is the best job in the world. And it is not an easy job, but I wake up every morning asking myself, what do I need to do today to solve problems and help people who need my help? And right now, that means that I am fighting back with every tool in my toolkit against efforts to take away your health care, to traumatize and bully our federal employees, to prevent any erosion of the services that we provide to our veterans and to our military families, and while taking care to make sure that our service members have, we address their quality of life issues. And again, I can't do everything. Because I'm only one person, but my priorities are really going to be focused through the committee that I work on and through the organizations and entities in my district. I'm really going to be focused on healthcare. We didn't even talk about it, but energy policy and climate action, our federal workforce, our veterans and military families, and I'm the only member of the Virginia delegation who has kids in public schools. I know there are only 6% of members of Congress who are mothers to young children. Only 3% of us are mothers of color, and even fewer of us have kids in public schools. So I will also be very focused on protecting education. That doesn't mean I'm not working on other issues. You just may not hear me talk about it as much because we have very limited bandwidth. That may mean I'm letting somebody else take the lead, but I'm helping them. But I'm here to serve you. And so I'll just end where I started. If you have an issue, a problem with a federal agency, if you want to bring to my attention stories about how what the Trump administration is doing is affecting you or your communities, please reach out, either through the website at mcclellan.house.gov, or there you can find out how to reach us by phone or by email. And again, I want to thank my staff, all of whom have been on this call listening. They are just as dedicated to you, and we all take the oath of office that I took on January 3rd very seriously, to serve you and protect the Constitution of the United States.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman McClellan, for your time and insights this evening with us. And thank you for everyone who joined us in tonight's live telephone town hall with Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan. If you would like to subscribe to her e-newsletter and you haven't spoken with our team yet, just stay on the line and leave us your name and email address after the tone, and we'll get you enrolled to receive the Congresswoman's e-newsletter. Thanks again for your time. We hope you stay healthy and safe and have a wonderful evening. Good night, everyone.